Okay, welcome to the Community Center Building Committee meeting of January 13th, 2025. My name is Dick Malcolm and I'm chair of the Building Committee. Following the guidance issued by the state in 2020 regarding the open meeting law, this public meeting will be held remotely and individuals wishing to participate may do so by utilizing Zoom video conference technology. To join the meeting by video conferencing using a computer, tablet, or phone, please refer to the town website for login information. So I will do a roll call, a call to order, a roll call of the members of the committee members present. David Billings,
Yes.
Luciana,
Yes, I'm here.
Barry Goldman,
Yes.
and I don't see Ruth. Okay. All right. So the first order of business is approval of the minutes. There are two meeting minutes we need to approve or look at or discuss, one from our November meeting and one from our December meeting. I know Al put that in the folder. Hopefully everybody got a chance to look them over. Is there any discussion on those minutes? If not, then I move that we approve the minutes of November 11, 2024 and the minutes of December 9th, 2024. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, are you in favor of the motion motion? I'll poll the committee. David,
Yes.
Luciana,
Yes,
Barry,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Okay, with that, I will turn the meeting over to Collier's project leaders, Al Estevez, to continue.
Thank you, Dick, and welcome everybody. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and then I will turn it over to Igli to walk us through the construction progress.
Good evening, everybody. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So just run through the December progress. So on the site, we still have rough grading that the contractor is still working on. The septic system install is ongoing on the site. We're waiting on a couple of components to arrive. The permanent power has been connected into the building, so great news with that. The generator commissioning is also ongoing. We got fuel to the generator and the electrician is working on the startup of that. Placement of the concrete walkways and sidewalks is finishing up. We've got a couple of small areas, which we'll see in some of the pictures that are still pending to be poured, just weather dependent at this point, but those are going to be finishing up very shortly. Moving to the pavilion, so we've got some finishes beginning to be installed there. Millwork install begun as of last week. The lighting fixtures installed, all ongoing. That's kind of been throughout the building. And then painting also same sort of throughout the building. We got final coats of paint going on the walls. The kitchen equipment scheduled to be finishing install in the next couple of weeks. That's still sort of ongoing. We've got a couple of pieces of equipment installed in the kitchen, expecting the rest to show up at the end of this week and then finish up install in the month of January. And then moving into the gym / connector. So interior glazing was installed in this area in the month of December. Ceiling grid and ceiling tiles have started to be installed. We've got a lot of the above ceiling work, MEP finish work finished up in this area. The lighting fixture is installed as well. And in the gym equipment has been delivered to the site and install is still ongoing there. Lighting fixtures install going on in the gym as well. The ductwork in the gym has been painted, and the electricians are working through the fire alarm scope as well in the gym area and the connector as well. In the 1910, so lighting fixtures, ongoing sort of throughout, finishing those up. Final coats of paint going on the walls. The MDF room has been completed, and our AV vendor is working on finishing their scope of work there as well. Toilet rooms fixtures have been installed, all the accessories are being installed throughout, and have been completely installed throughout. Doors and hardware installed, sort of ongoing. There's been a couple of doors that have been installed, the rest are ongoing as well. And the acoustic ceiling in the dance room is install is also ongoing. The ceiling contractor is finishing that up as we speak. And then just some January progress to date. So flooring installed beginning in the month of January and expecting to finish up at the first week of February, if not before. Looking to get above ceiling inspections in the middle of this week for our MEP subs. Interior finishes obviously continuing. January is going to be a big push for us on the interior finishes. We got flooring, millwork, and finishing up painting as well. Factory startup of the HVAC units is ongoing. We've already got the VRF system started up, and that's already been scheduled to be working throughout the nighttime and not affect the construction. The contractors put temporary filters in place as to not get dust into the ductwork. Still waiting on startup of the RTUs. We'll be getting a follow-up visit from the factory vendors from the HVAC side to get those units started up. We were told at the end of this month. Any questions on this? If not, we can just run through some of the pictures, see some of the project.
How are we doing
progression.
on exterior commissioning?
So exterior commissioning, we've got the window testing scheduled from Alpin, who's the window vendor, scheduled for this week, 14th, 15th, and 16th. Yeah, so they're starting tomorrow. Still working through that, but at the moment, that's where we are.
Okay.
Was there a window failure back a month or two ago?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, so we did another round of testing, and a couple of the windows failed. We did the testing through Intertek, through our vendor. At this point, the spec calls for 25 windows to be tested, which the contractor, at the cost of the contractor. So at this point, have it scheduled and be starting tomorrow with this testing.
20, how many total windows are there, Wrigley?
It'd be 20.
25?
Yeah, it'd be 25 windows that they're testing.
And I mean, is that all the windows? Is that?
It's not all the windows, but it's most of the windows.
Yeah, it's basically all of the operable windows in the building that they're gonna be retesting.
And those were the windows that there were issues with?
Correct. Yeah, all the fixed ones they had passed the testing originally, so no need to retest those. All the operables are the ones we have issues with.
So
So
were those replaced with a different model or what?
No,
the
they
issue?
weren't. Yeah, they weren't replaced. They had issues at some of the miter joints on the actual sash. So the vendor came out. They brought technicians on site and were able to make some adjustments to the cranks and the miter joints and add some sealant. And
So you expect that will take care of it? Is there any indication of?
they've made every effort to make the fixes. Obviously, we can't sign off on commissioning the exterior if they don't pass it. So at this point, we'll follow the specs. If they end up failing this set of testing, Al, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they have to retest every window on the site, and then if that fails, then we move on to replacement of the windows.
Yeah, we're actually in the last step of the specs where if the owner decided, if there's any more failures with these windows, if the owner decided to go with a different product, then we could ask a contractor to install a different product.
At their expense?
Yep.
Okay.
And when is the testing again, Egley?
So have it scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. So 14, 15, 16 of this month. Okay.
And temperatures aren't an issue with this testing?
Doesn't look like it tomorrow. Obviously, they'll be pouring water onto the windows, so it's gonna be above 32, so
Yeah,
it is sort of weather dependent, but fingers crossed that the temperature holds up, so we can get through this.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so just running through some of the progress on site. Obviously, the on the left and the right, some of the progress in the exterior. Sidewalks have been poured, the curbing's been installed, and the contractors are working through the storefront install. All the frames have been installed, but just pending the exterior doors to be installed there. And then obviously all the masonry, everything has been completed to this point. So just moving to the interior, as mentioned previously, all the bathroom fixtures and accessories have been installed, grab bars, partitions on the first floor, which I don't believe I have a picture of, but all the partitions on the first floor of the 1910 have been installed as well. And some of the millwork progress that just began at the beginning of last week in the kitchen and pavilion area that the mill worker is working through at the moment. So keeping going on the pavilion, the interior storefront has been installed, and all the glazing has been installed as well. Still some millwork sort of hanging around and working. They're working through layout at this area. It's the cafe area on the left-hand side. Expecting that to be installed in the next 10 days. And on the right-hand side, just some progress, mainly on the ceiling on the vestibule area here in the connector. So light fixtures have been installed, all the painting and the ceiling grid have been installed in this area as well. And then in the connector on the second floor, ceiling grid and light fixtures, sort of a common theme throughout. Obviously, all the MEP contractors are working through their above ceiling work at this point, trying to get out of the ceiling so we can get inspections. Expecting them to get those inspections on, we're told Wednesday of this week, so hoping to hold them to that. And the electricians are working through the fire alarm install in this area as well, expecting to be completely done in the next 2 days. Same sort of progress in the gym, lighting fixtures, it's not shown in the pictures, but the temp lights have been removed here and the lights have been installed. Ductwork was painted and electricians are working through the fire alarm scope in the gym area. So moving to the first floor of the 1910, we've got final coat of paint on the walls. The AV vendor has made some of their wire pulls into the wall, lighting fixtures installed, and the ceiling grid and ceiling tiles have begun to be installed in this area. Some HVAC finishes, all the registers, grills, and diffusers have begun to be installed in this area as well. And then just moving upstairs in the 1910 on the second floor, the operable partition has been installed, and some accessories, obviously whiteboard, ceiling grid. The HVAC contractors have installed some of the diffusers in the space, and light fixtures also being installed. And on the right-hand side, the acoustic ceiling in the dance room has been installed. Final coat of paint on the walls. Exit signs have been installed throughout, so they're working through their life safety requirements in this area as well. And then some progress on the septic system. Still finishing up the final grading on this area. And the contractor is waiting on the pumps to be installed for the septic system. Hoping to get those in at the first week of February. We'll be getting an update from them on a ship date from the manufacturer at tomorrow's construction progress meeting. And then on the right-hand side, the generator install has been completed. Walkways, pathways been poured. Bollards have been installed. And then up on the roof, we did have the metal staircase installed as well. Any questions?
When is the generator gonna be operating?
So the Griffin was able to get fuel into the generator as of last week. I believe they're working with Generac to get factory startup of that. And the next, I want to say this week, if not the following week, just to get startup. I think they were just trying to get on the schedule the last time that
Okay,
we had a commissioning meeting. So yeah, in the next coming weeks, we should get that operable.
Great, thanks, Igali. Moving on with the construction schedule, we're still waiting on an updated schedule from general contractor. The last update that we have is from December 2nd. And as of last week, when I talked to the contractor, they're still anticipating achieving substantial completion by February 11th. Now, there's a couple of things that need to align for that date to happen. So one of them, for example, being the pumps that Igali just mentioned, they do have a lead time and they could potentially hold up substantial completion. But that, of course, is not going to affect the contractor from working in the other areas of the building to try to get it to a substantial completion level of finish. And we met a couple of weeks ago. We had a joint meeting with Nina and you guys and the Board of Selectmen, and we're still working with her on the delays for the project. We still have not received the delay claim on the corrective plan. And so what I did for the December payment period is essentially I updated, reconciled rather the liquidated damages because we now have additional actual damages that the town has incurred, OPM architect fees. And so reconcile that against the preemptive withholding. So basically, once I reconciled it, the math added up to an additional 5,700 of withholding from the contractor. So that's the additional withholding from the December pay up. Now to date, we're withholding a total of 223,000, close to 224,000, 160,000 of which are actual damages, and then 63,000 basically from the end of December through the anticipated substantial completion date for failure to provide the documents that are listed here. Any questions on the schedule?
The Al, on the withholdings, this is all done with approval from town council.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, so talking to Nina, this is in line with the plan going forward for the rest of the project. Basically, at the end of every payment period, we're going to reconcile the actual damages with the preemptive withholding and adjusting those figures.
Thanks.
Yeah. And one thing I do want to note, just because this is a public meeting, so these, the February 11th, that's the internal date that we're anticipating substantial completion. That is not to be confused with the date that we're anticipating the owner to move into the building, because once we achieve substantial completion, there's still going to be a list of punch list items or items that do not affect life safety that still need to be completed. And so the plan is to give the contractor a few weeks after substantial completion for them to work uninterrupted so that they can work as efficiently as possible to try to complete the punch list items before any staff moves in. And another thing that I'd like to note is the staff moving date also it's going to be different than the date that the building opens to the public for programs. There's going to be a period of setting up the operations of the building, setting up offices, etc.
And furniture deliveries are when?
Furniture deliveries are scheduled for March 1st.
Okay.
So hold on, Al, when are they gonna move in?
Sure. So yeah, we met with the user groups actually last week,
Yeah.
just to discuss the moving logistics and procedures, and we're anticipating staff moving at the beginning of April, followed by opening the building to the public towards the end of April. Of course, those dates are subject to change, and we'll keep you guys posted as we have more accurate information.
Okay.
And David, I know that in the last meeting, I know that in the last meeting you noted that this final completion date is not actual final completion. So we'll have the contractor adjust that. And the reason for that is just because there's planting seasons for the landscaping. Some of the seasons are actually in May. So technically the contractor is not going to be achieve final completion until their entire contract is built out or completed.
Yep.
Okay, any more questions on schedule? Okay, looking at the budget, as typical, everything highlighted in yellow are the updates for the current month. We have a number of invoices that I'll go over. Those are highlighted in column D1. Now the one, if we look at the bottom of column D, potential exposures or anticipated risks for the project, we're looking at a total of around 242,000. I'll go over the detail of what makes up that figure. 81,000 is for construction, potential change orders that are we're working through, and then 161 is related to soft costs, so architect OPM fees mainly. Now, worst case scenario, should all of these potential exposures be approved as presented, we're looking at a remaining contingency of around 48%, which is about 1.169 million left. And another thing to note is that the project is about the overall project, not the construction, but the overall project is about 94% built out. So again, we're anticipating approximately 50% remaining contingency, and the overall project is about 94% built out. And I think on the construction side, it's about 86% built as of the end of December.
Okay.
Any questions on the overall budget? Okay, looking at the approved change orders to date, the ones highlighted in yellow here are the ones that we expedited directly through Michael Blanchard through the expedited process under $20,000. As you can see, all of these has fairly small dollar value. Most of these are time and material work. The contractor provided time slips supporting the work. We wanted to, to get them paid for the work that they've completed. And just to not hold up the schedule or cause delay impacts. We can certainly get into any of these if anyone wants. Otherwise, I will move on to the pending change orders. Any questions? Okay, pending change orders. It's kind of nice. There's not as many, which is a really good sign. But we're not presenting any change orders for approval recommendation tonight. We're still very much working through all of these ones here. So if there's any questions, can certainly go over this. Otherwise, we'll move to the next slide, and we'll once we have some of these ready for you guys, we'll present them at the next meeting. Okay, looking at the soft costs, this is where I did make a few changes based on the last meeting, the feedback received from the last meeting. Everything up in white here are transfers or soft cost change orders that have been approved in the past. The ones in yellow are the pending ones. And so starting with the first one, the building committee previously recommended for approval additional services to staff the project as a result of the delays for 3 months from October to December. And so the building committee requested essentially having a cost that takes us through the end of the project. FMA is still working on that. In the last meeting, I had essentially 2 months of FMA staff fees based at the current rate of $25,487. But I did, based on the feedback from the last building committee, we know that the project is gonna go past February, past March. And so basically I added an additional three months at $15,000 a month. And I'll adjust it as soon as I have the actual numbers from FMA. Any questions on that specific one?
So that's a constant rate.
Yeah, that's the way that I said it right now.
Okay,
Yeah, so, yeah, once I have
and
the,
that's based on their standard CA fee, or we had a reduced rate? Because,
yeah, so what I did, it's for the first 2 months. So, okay, so the prior ad services amendment, which is up here for 76,000, where my
Yeah.
cursor is, for 76, it was for October, November, and December. What I did is I added 2 months, January and February, at the same rate of 25,487, basically at a
Okay.
full, construction CA services fee. And then an additional 3 months at $15,000 a month, hoping that, the effort will be lesser at that point. I know FMA is working hard on, looking at the latest schedule and, trying to come up with, a number that they feel could get us through the end of the project.
Okay,
When can we expect a draft of that, or a proposal, amendment, excuse me, an amendment to their contract, FM's amendment to their contract?
I can speak to that, Dick. So, right now, and then to answer some of these questions, it's a combination right now of making sure that we're getting some information from our consultants. Because obviously the value that you're seeing here is applied to FM. It's really the entire design team. So as the schedule has extended, additional site visits for MEP engineers. There has been some splitting of scope for site, so that's civil and landscape. So there's a couple different things that we're trying to compile. My hope is to have that all in your inbox in about a week from now, which would give you some time to review it in advance of next month's building committee meeting.
And the 96K that Al's got plugged in here, does that seem reasonable to you?
I don't have the math in front of me, so I will say that seems reasonable. I will say you'll see it when we send it, but based on how we've all acknowledged that the schedule is a little plus or minus. There's a number of activities that we know are happening after substantial completion, but they're really going to be schedule dependent, weather dependent, seasonal dependent. There may be some scopes where it makes more sense for us to say, we recommend an allowance, X dollars, because we think it's going to be 2 visits. It might end up being 3 or 4. So in the sense of this, we'd like to be able to give you, reasonable value for this, but also knowing that things can change. And with the overall request of doing all this once, so that we're not, coming back every meeting and having to talk about the schedule changing. So that's how it's going to be submitted, which is, we think for the scope that's understood in the schedule and we believe is fair and is likely to happen. We can kind of do that math. But for some things, I'm thinking more of the exterior site work that's really not going to happen till the spring. That's where I want to be able to give you something that says we reasonably think what that value is. But I'd like to be able to capture that in something that's a not to exceed, so that if there does end up being some additional site visit or something else that can be applied to that. And certainly we would be submitting that in the monthly invoice. But otherwise, that's how we're kind of forecasting it, because as we said, we've looked at the schedule. We're really the contractors aiming for the TCO, but some of the specific timelines and things are, I think, a good faith effort on their part for when it's going to happen. But at this point, that's the part that we're working with, is a schedule that's a little bit gray and fuzzy.
Okay, thank you.
And will that work for you guys if we structure the additional services as a like Katie was suggesting, almost like an allowance with an allowance for the rest of the services?
Yeah, with a not to exceed.
yeah, I think we need to take a look at it. I mean, there's some of these services were due, they're just at a different date than they currently are.
Yeah, absolutely. And
We'll look at it all. That's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Sounds good. The next one, I briefly mentioned this one before, but I added a little bit more detail. Katie, I know you sent me an email detailing some of the essentially non-contract work that, you know, you guys put into this project, you know, with just things that came up throughout the project, you know, like the level spreader, over excavation. A lot of these were just very, you know, time-consuming items that, you know, during the project, the 1910 footings, some of the plumbing review associated with the inspections, the generator, corrective work at the pavilion, stain at the CLT, the wrong stain was put in, attending BOA's board selectmen's meetings, coordinating with the fans and the abutters, etc. So Katie, I know that you're working on that services as well.
Yes, correct. And I can tell you that the number that we are targeting is definitely much smaller than 50,000.
Okay, that's a good. Any questions on that one?
We'll look at it when we see it.
Sounds good. Excellent. And Katie, is the plan to submit these two together here?
Sorry, I keep muting myself. Absolutely. I wanted to be able to give you both of them into one package. I think that was the conversation previously. And like I said, I just got hung up because with the going forward, the additional time, I wanted to make sure that I had something from each of the consultants so they could, you know, describe their additional scope. This one is basically ready to go. I just wanted to give you one package. So to be clear, there are two separate ad service requests. But this way you can look at them all at the same time.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then the last one here, it's similar to FMA right now. So let's see, April. Okay, so right now, previously for Colliers, we approved a 5-month additional staffing for the delays on the project from September through January. And then after January, we have already, as part of our base contract, we have 2 months of closeout for February and March. And I know, like, similarly to FM, during the last billing committee, it was requested that we, you know, submit a package that gets us through the end of the project. And right now, I just set it as 15,000, but I do need to look at this one internally and just try to come up with a good not to exceed that, you know, based on the schedule that will get us through the end of the project. Any questions?
Yeah, and so Al, as far as CPL goes, the ad services, can we expect that that same time period as FM's?
Yes,
So
yes, absolutely.
obviously with enough time for the committee to review before our next meeting.
Yep,
Okay, great. Well, thank you for putting in these placeholders.
of course. Okay, looking at the contingency, like I mentioned earlier, so right now we have 200, where my cursor is 242,000 in potential exposures. That includes these ones in yellow that we just discussed. And, you know, like Katie mentioned, maybe the 50,000, it's a little bit on the conservative side, so this could be less. And then that also includes essentially all of these pending change orders here as presented that we're still working through. So should all of that be approved as you see it, we're anticipating 1,169,000 left in contingency. And again, just to compare, that's about 48% of the original contingency. And the construction as of the end of December is 86% built. And the overall project is around 94% built. So we're getting close to the end here, and, you know, it looks like we're looking at a healthy contingency left. Any questions on these? Okay, moving on to the invoices, we do have quite a few to this payment period. We have starting with the general contractors payment application, and if you look to the right, you see that their invoice amount is different than the approved amount, and that is to reconcile the withholding from the general contractor. The amount is $1,160,000. Well, the approved amount is $1,157,000 for the month of December. And includes a lot of the scope that Eagly went through during the progress section. We have our invoice. It was a not to exceed of 30,000, and we came in at 25,040 cents. All of the detail, the accounting detail for the hours are included in the invoice. We have FMAs and their consultants invoice for the month of December, 26,127. So that is their additional services of 25,487 and some reimbursable expenses. And then I actually, in the right below that, I do have another line item for FMA, and that's my fault. I put the wrong number in here. I excluded their reimbursable expenses, so I like to from their November payment. So I like to vote on those as well. Retrofit is pretty much done with their services. This takes them through the completion of their services here. Retrofit, they're the town's IT vendor, 28,278. We have a small invoice for police details to do the waterline work along Springdale. That's for 260. We have a bunch of invoices from Oakers. There's the AV vendor. They're pretty much done. This is not, they still have like $92,000 left in their contract, but they're pretty much done with their services there. They're just waiting on the hearing loops. Yeah, I mean, all of this, it's for work that's been completed and it's in line with their contract. We have 2 invoices for Eagle Leasing. One of them, it's from October that I forgot to submit it, 398, and then we have the one for December and January, 398. And lastly, we have the last invoice for window testing from Intertech, and so the amount of 2,525. So basically, what we did with Intertech is they requested a deposit of 15,550 that we paid before even any testing. They submitted a number of invoices subsequent to that, but they were basically coded against that deposit. Right now, this is the delta. The 2,500 is the delta from that deposit, and that is the last invoice that we're anticipating from Intertech, because right now all of the testing is being done by a different testing company that's been pre-approved. They're an independent testing company meeting the independent requirements. That's been approved by the Building Envelope Commissioning agent. So we shouldn't see any more invoices from Intertech here.
Who's doing the
total-
testing going forward?
I'm sorry, who is it?
Who's doing the testing going forward?
Fenestration, something.
Administration testing systems.
Okay, never heard of them. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, they have their certificates, that they're an independent. We run
Okay.
this through David DeSola, so yeah, just to make sure.
All right.
So yeah, the total that we're looking at approving is $1,300,368.39.
So Al, can you just, can you explain why the police detail water line was not handled by the contractor?
Oh, yeah, so great question. So the water line work, that was something that we initially considered going with the contractor. Their initial estimate was around something like $85,000 to do that water line work, which included the police details. We then, with the design team working through, trying to reduce the cost and the number of days required to do the work, we brought it down to like $25,000. And then we were able to do this through the town directly for like $500. So it was the $260 that you see here for the police details. And there was another, it was more like $750 total. So yeah, I mean, that's, big win there for the town, essentially, going directly. And so this is why this invoice, it's directly with the town and not the contractor.
And this was all for work outside of the contractor's.
Correct.
scope of the contract.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, so we'd like to approve, Al, is that next step, approve these invoices?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I move I move that we approve the invoices as listed here by Colliers in the total amount of $1,300,368.39. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
We gotta move it
we'll,
first.
Are you in favor of the motion? I will poll the committee. David,
Yes.
Luciano,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Ruth,
Yes.
and welcome, by the way. Okay, and I am a yes as well. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Val, I got a quick question on technology. Who's doing the integration? Is that Okers or is that Retrofit?
That's retrofit. That's doing the
Okay, so they have
integration.
another contract to come back in once Okers is done putting up all the white, the wax and the monitors and everything. And Retrofit comes back and integrates it all and
Yep, yeah, looking
turns
at
it on
the,
and all that
Yep.
stuff.
yep.
All right.
Any citizens on the line? Okay, any future business? Okay, I think this was probably the quickest building committee meeting we've ever had.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you.
So the next meeting, we're looking at February 10th. Does that work for everyone? Monday, February 10th.
Can we schedule a walkthrough before the meeting or for the meeting?
Of course.
Yeah, that day
we
works for me.
Yeah, we can.
What was that, Luciana?
The day February 10 works for me.
Okay, well, why don't we do a walkthrough before the meeting?
Mhm.
Does that seem to work for everyone? I walk through the same day in February 10th or earlier in the day?
We set it for like 5 o'clock, 5:30.
Sure.
Hopefully the heat will be on.
Should be on. All right, yeah, I'll send out an invite, and then we'll plan on that. Exciting. All right. Well, thanks everyone. That's the end of my agenda here.
Ciao, ciao.
Go on, thank
All
you.
right, well, thank
Good night.
you.
Wait, do we need to? Do we
We
need to do
need
the-
to
Adjourn.
officially adjourn the meeting before everybody leaves. So, I move that we adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, are you in favor? David Billings,
yes.
Luciano,
She
He's
jumped.
just gone.
he's gone already.
She's trying to get home.
That's a yes.
All right, we have a
Barry,
quorum.
Barry, I take you're
I'm a
yes, can't hear you. And Ruth?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you all for attending. Have a nice rest of the evening. I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
everyone.
night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.